Captain Elias Ward woke to the sound of soft beeps and the faint hum of machines. The light in the room was dim, not like the harsh glare of a combat ship's medbay. This light felt calm. His head throbbed, his ribs ached, and his right arm felt heavy under a layer of medical gel wrap. He blinked, trying to remember what had happened. Pirates. The smell of smoke in the cockpit. A sharp pain when the blast hit, then nothing but darkness. Now the smell in the air was clean, a mixture of sterilized metal and something faintly floral. He turned his head slowly and saw someone standing near his bed. It was not a human. She was tall, almost 2 meters, her figure slim but graceful. Her skin was smooth and pale blue, with a faint shimmer under the soft lights. Her eyes were large, dark, and steady. 4 slender arms moved with practiced precision as she checked the readings on a floating medical display. She wore a crisp white and gray uniform with the symbol of Orion Station Medical Corps on the sleeve. The alien nurse noticed his eyes open and stepped closer. "You are awake," she said, her voice calm, low, and smooth. "Do not move too much. You have 3 broken ribs, 1 fractured arm, and a mild concussion." Elias let out a slow breath. "Guess I'm lucky to be alive." "You are," she replied simply, without a smile. "Rest. Healing will take time." He watched her work for a few moments. She didn't rush, but every motion was exact. Her lower arms adjusted the medical scanner while her upper arms prepared a nutrient infusion. There was a strange kind of beauty in her focus. The way her dark eyes studied the data, the way her long fingers moved without hesitation. "You're beautiful," Elias said, his voice low but clear. "Even in that uniform." For the first time, she stopped moving. Her large eyes widened slightly, and the faint shimmer of her skin changed. The pale blue shifted into a soft lavender tone. She turned her head away quickly, focusing on the display again. "I will adjust your nutrient feed," she said, but there was the smallest change in her voice. Not quite steady now. Elias noticed it. "Did I say something wrong?" "You should rest," she answered, without looking at him. She finished her adjustments quickly, then stepped back. "I will check on you later." Before he could say anything else, she walked to the sliding door and stepped out into the corridor. The door closed behind her with a quiet hiss. Elias lay back, blinking at the ceiling. He had no idea why she reacted that way. Maybe it was rude to compliment her in her culture, or maybe she just wasn't used to hearing things like that from patients. Still, he couldn't help but notice. She had definitely blushed. The next morning, Elias expected to see her again. Instead, a different medic came, a short, round alien with green-mottled skin and a cheerful voice. "You are looking better," the medic said, checking his bandages. "The nurse Lura did good work." "Lura," Elias repeated. "That's her name?" "Yes. Lura of the Virith. Very skilled, very professional." The medic smiled knowingly. "She does not talk much to patients, especially humans. Virith are private people." Elias frowned. "Private how?" The medic chuckled. "The skin tone shift, you saw it, yes?" Elias hesitated. "Maybe. For a Virith, that is very personal. They do not show such colors in public unless they are startled or—" The medic stopped himself, then shrugged. "Let's just say it means she felt something she did not expect." Elias lay back, thinking about that. So it wasn't just his imagination. She really had blushed. That evening, the lights in the station dimmed to a softer hue, simulated night cycle. Elias was lying awake, listening to the distant hum of the station's engines, when the door opened. Lura stepped in, carrying a fresh medical kit. She moved to his bedside without meeting his eyes. "You should have been resting," she said, quietly. Your heart rate is elevated. Hard to sleep in a strange place, Elias replied. And maybe I was waiting for my nurse to come back. She glanced at him briefly, then focused on the small scanner in her upper right hand. Your recovery is progressing well. If you continue at this rate, you may leave the med bay in 3 days. That's good, he said. But I wanted to say sorry. If I said something earlier that made you uncomfortable, that wasn't my intention. Lura's lower left hand paused for a moment before continuing to check his pulse. It is unusual for a human to speak to a vireth in such a way. Unusual bad or unusual good? Elias asked. Her eyes flicked toward him for just a second, and that faint lavender blush returned. It is simply unusual, she said, her tone softer now. Before Elias could respond, a sudden alarm rang through the medbay. A deep voice spoke over the station intercom. Security alert! Outer docking bay breached. All medical staff prepare for lockdown. Laura's head turned toward the sound, her posture changing instantly from calm to alert. What's going on? Elias asked, trying to sit up. Pirates, she said, her voice clipped and focused. Stay here. She turned toward the door, but Elias was already pushing himself upright, ignoring the pain in his ribs. I've dealt with pirates before, he said. I'm not staying in bed while they're crawling through the station. She stared at him for a long moment, then, without another word, handed him a small med-spray injector. If the pain becomes too great, use this. The lights flickered once, twice. The alarms grew louder. Somewhere in the distance, metal clanged and voices shouted. Elias tightened the wrap on his arm and followed her into the corridor. Whatever was happening on Orion Station, it looked like his recovery would have to wait. The corridor outside the medbay was dim, lit only by red emergency strips along the walls. The usual gentle hum of Orion Station was replaced by distant thuds, metallic clanks, and the faint echo of hurried voices. Lura moved with quick, precise steps, her 4 arms held close to her body. She glanced over her shoulder at Elias, who was keeping up despite his limp and the stiffness in his ribs. You should not be walking, she said. And you shouldn't be alone, Elias replied. Pirates aren't exactly known for playing. Nice. She didn't argue, but her pace slowed slightly so he could stay close. As they turned a corner, 2 security drones floated past, their small energy weapons powered up. Lura stepped aside to let them pass, her dark eyes scanning the corridor. The breach is near the outer docking bay, she said. If they came for medical supplies, they will target the main storage first. Or, Elias said grimly, they could be here for someone. Hospitals treat all kinds, right? Even criminals? Lura gave a slight nod. There is one patient under guard in the lower ward, a pirate leader. He was badly injured 3 days ago. That's it then, Elias said. They're here for him. They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Lura tapped a wall panel, bringing up a small holographic map. Security forces are here, she said, pointing to one sector. But pirates have already reached this area. She traced a path toward the medbay storage unit. We will take this route to avoid them. Elias frowned. We're not running away? We are repositioning, Lura corrected. If we can reach the secondary control room, we can lock down this section and keep the pirates from spreading. Elias grinned faintly. Sounds like you've done this before. Her lower right hand froze for a fraction of a second, then kept moving. I served in the Vireth Defense Corps for 9 cycles, she admitted. Before I became a medical officer. That explained a lot. Her steady movements, her focus, the way she had reacted instantly to the alarm. Why'd you leave? Elias asked as they walked. Her expression didn't change, but her voice lowered. A mission failed. Lives were lost. I chose to serve life instead of ending it. Elias wanted to ask more, but a sudden loud crash from ahead cut him off. Two pirates appeared from a side corridor, both carrying short-energy carbines. They were broad-shouldered, armored in mismatched pieces, and moved with aggressive confidence. One of them spotted Elias and Lura. "There!" he shouted in a guttural voice. Before Elias could react, Lura stepped forward in a blur. Her upper arms moved to grab a loose metal pipe from the wall bracket, while her lower arms snatched Elias by the shoulder, pulling him behind her. The first pirate raised his weapon, but Lura was already moving. She swung the pipe sharply into his wrist, knocking the gun away. A quick twist of her upper body sent the pipe into his chest, sending him crashing into the wall. The second pirate tried to aim, but Lura lunged forward, her lower arms locking onto his weapon while her upper arms shoved him back. With one clean motion, she tripped him and sent him to the floor. Elias stared, impressed. "Remind me never to make you angry." She didn't answer, just tossed the pipe aside and started moving again. They reached the secondary control room, a compact space filled with screens, blinking lights, and a central command console. Lura went straight to the terminal, her upper hands flying over the controls, while her lower hands adjusted a smaller security pad. Elias looked around. "No guards?" "This area is not usually active during emergencies," she replied, "but it has access to local locks." She brought up a schematic of the station's medbay section and began sealing blast doors one by one. The sound of heavy metal sliding into place echoed faintly through the walls. "That should slow them down," she said. "Slow but not stop," Elias pointed out. "Yes," she agreed, "but now we can prepare." Elias took a seat on a low bench, catching his breath. His ribs hurt from the short fight earlier. "You fought like you've been doing it your whole life," he said. "I have been trained," she replied simply. "But you're a nurse now." "I am both," she said, glancing at him with a faint, unreadable look. Elias smiled slightly. "That explains why you didn't panic when the alarms went off, and why you looked like you could knock out a pirate without breaking a sweat." She hesitated, then spoke more softly. "Most people only see the uniform I wear now. They do not know what I was before, or they do not care." Elias leaned back. "I care." Her skin tone shifted again, that soft lavender glow. She turned back to the console quickly, pretending to focus on the screens. The station's lights flickered again, and the comm system crackled to life. "All personnel, pirates have breached the lower ward. Security teams, converge on Sector A. 9 immediately." "That's where the prisoner is," Elias said, standing up. Lura's eyes narrowed. "If they free him, the fighting will spread to the entire station." She shut down the console's interface and turned toward the door. "We go now?" "You mean we as in both of us?" Elias asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "You can walk, you can think fast, and you are already involved. That makes you useful." Elias chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." They moved through a maintenance passage to avoid the main corridors. The walls were narrow and lined with pipes that hummed softly with station power. Elias noticed Lura's pace, not too fast, but deliberate. Every step seemed chosen to avoid making noise. "You've done rescue missions before, haven't you?" he asked quietly. "Yes." "Successful ones?" "Most of them," she said after a pause. He could tell there was more behind that pause, but now wasn't the time to press. They emerged from the maintenance passage into a wider hall near the lower ward. The air here was tense. Faint smoke drifted from a doorway ahead, and the floor had scattered pieces of medical equipment. Voices shouted from deeper inside. Lura glanced at Elias. "Stay behind me." "Not happening," he said. Before they could argue, a pirate drone rolled out from the smoke. It had a spinning sensor array and 2 small blasters mounted on its sides. The drone locked onto them and beeped sharply. Elias grabbed a loose metal tray from the floor and hurled it at the drone, striking one of its blasters. The machine jerked sideways, just enough for Lura to leap forward, seize its sensor array, and tear it free. The drone's lights went dark, and it slumped to the floor. Elias grinned. Teamwork? Laura gave the smallest nod. Yes, teamwork. And with that, they stepped into the smoke-filled ward, ready to face whatever waited inside. The smoke in the lower ward hung heavy in the air, curling around broken medical beds and overturned supply carts. Emergency lights flickered overhead, painting everything in pulses of red. Elias stayed close to Laura as they moved deeper inside. Somewhere beyond the haze, voices shouted, harsh pirate commands mixed with frightened cries from patients. Laura raised one upper hand, signaling him to stop. With her other 3 hands, she quickly checked the readout on a small handheld scanner. 3. Pirates ahead, she whispered. 1 guarding the main door, 2 inside the ward. Elias leaned closer. And the prisoner? Likely still in his recovery room. They will try to move him to the docking bay soon. Elias's ribs still ached, but adrenaline kept him moving. Then we cut them off before they get that far. They crept along the side corridor until they reached a wide opening. Through the shifting smoke, Elias could see the first pirate, a tall figure in scavenged armor, holding a compact energy rifle. His posture was relaxed, confident. Laura crouched low, her 4 arms ready. She glanced at Elias. On my signal, throw something to distract him. Elias nodded and picked up a small metal container from the floor. Laura gave the signal. Quick tilt of her head. Elias tossed the container hard to the left, where it clattered loudly against a wall. The pirate turned toward the sound, raising his weapon. In that instant, Laura moved. She dashed forward in near silence, closing the distance in 3 long strides. Her lower arms grabbed the rifle and shoved it upward, firing harmlessly into the ceiling while her upper arms struck the pirate's chest. He stumbled back, but before he could shout, Laura twisted his arm and sent him crashing to the floor, unconscious. Elias stepped forward, impressed. You do that like you've practiced it 100 times. I have, she said simply, and motioned him to follow. Inside the ward, the scene was chaotic. 2 pirates were herding patients into a corner, weapons pointed at them. The patients looked terrified. Some were human, others of alien species Elias didn't recognize. One pirate was a broad, reptilian humanoid with dull green scales. The other was thin and wiry, with long, flexible fingers gripping his weapon tightly. Laura moved behind a toppled bed for cover. We must act before they harm anyone, she whispered. Elias scanned the room. We take the big one first. If he goes down, the other might panic. She gave a short nod. I will engage the large one. You handle the smaller. He gave her a quick grin. I'll try to keep up. They moved together. Laura broke cover and rushed the reptilian pirate. Her upper arms hooked his weapon, dragging it sideways, while her lower arms struck at the softer joints under his armor. The pirate roared and tried to throw her off, but she stayed low and used his own weight to trip him. They crashed to the floor in a loud thud. Meanwhile, Elias darted toward the wiry pirate. The man swung his weapon toward him, but Elias dove behind a cart and pushed it forward hard. The cart slammed into the pirate's legs, knocking him off balance. Elias grabbed the weapon and yanked it free, tossing it aside before throwing a quick punch to the pirate's jaw. The man went down, groaning. The patients looked relieved, but Laura didn't pause. She checked the room quickly. The prisoner's room is down that hall. We must move now. One of the patients, a human woman with a bandaged arm, called out, Be careful. They said more are coming. Laura gave her a reassuring nod. Stay together. The security drones will be here soon. The hallway to the prisoner's room was quieter, but smelled of burnt circuitry. Panels on the walls sparked occasionally, and one overhead light flickered rapidly. They reached the reinforced door. Laura tried the panel, but it was locked from the inside. Can you override it? Elias asked. Yes, she said, pulling a small tool from her belt. But it will take... Before she could finish, the door slid open with a hiss. Inside stood a tall figure wearing pirate insignia, not in a hospital gown, but in patched armor. He had clearly recovered enough to fight. His sharp eyes flicked between Elias and Lura. "I was wondering when you'd arrive," he said with a smirk. Lura's gaze hardened. "You are not leaving this station." The pirate leader tilted his head. "You think you can stop me? I have men all over this sector." Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "We just took care of 4 of them. Want to be number 5? The pirate leader's smile faded slightly. His hand went to the weapon at his hip. The next moments were fast. Lura lunged first, trying to knock the weapon away. The pirate blocked her with surprising strength, pushing her back a step. Elias used the opening to grab the man's arm, twisting it sharply. The weapon clattered to the floor. Lura's upper arms locked around the pirate's shoulders, while her lower arms struck his knees. Together, they forced him down to the ground. He struggled, but Lura applied precise pressure points until his body went limp. Breathing hard, Elias glanced at her. "Remind me again why you're just a nurse." For the first time since the fight began, she gave the smallest smile. "Because saving lives is more satisfying than taking them." They secured the pirate leader with medical restraints. Just as the sound of boots echoed in the hallway, a squad of station security officers rushed in, weapons ready. The officer in charge, a tall human with a scar over one eye, looked around at the unconscious pirates. "Looks like you 2 did our job for us," he said. Lura stood tall, her skin toned back to its calm, pale blue. "The patients are safe. You should move them to secure rooms until the area is cleared." The officer nodded and signaled his team to take the prisoner. As the security team led the pirate leader away, Elias leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "Well, that was fun." Lura gave him a sideways look. "Your definition of fun is questionable." He grinned. "Maybe. But I like working with you." For just a moment, her skin warmed to that faint lavender again before she turned toward Day, the ward. "We are not finished yet. The pirates may still have control of other sections." Elias pushed himself upright. "Then let's go make sure they don't." Side by side, they headed back into the smoke and chaos, ready for whatever the station threw at them next. The station's corridors were chaotic. Sirens blared, lights flickered, and the smell of burnt circuits lingered in the air. Security teams moved quickly, but the pirates had spread through much of the lower wards and storage areas. Elias and Lura moved fast, their steps echoing against the cold metal walls. Elias still felt pain in his ribs, but adrenaline pushed him forward. He was determined to help, not just as a patient, but as a fighter. "We need to get to the main security control room," Lura said. "If we can regain control, we can lock down the station and stop the pirates from moving." Elias nodded. "Lead the way." They turned sharply down a narrow hallway and ducked into a side room marked Security Command. The room was small but packed with monitors, consoles, and blinking lights. Several empty chairs spun slowly as if recently vacated. Lura sat down at the main console. Her 4 arms worked quickly and confidently. 2 hands flew over the keyboard, typing commands, while the other 2 manipulated the security panel and network controls. Elias watched, amazed. "You really know this system." "I helped design parts of it before joining medical," she said quietly. Her fingers didn't slow. Suddenly, a loud beep came from one of the screens. A map of Orion Station appeared, showing red flashing dots, pirate activity, spreading through different sectors. "We can activate lockdown protocols," Lura said, "but we need to isolate the pirate locations first. The system is damaged and slow." "Then we do it manually," Elias said, pulling himself up to the control desk. Lura gave him a brief look, then nodded. "Good." Together, they began working through the controls. Elias watched the cameras and reported pirate positions while Lura locked blast doors and sealed bulkheads. Every time a door closed, a metallic thud echoed through the station. "This will slow them down," Laura said. "But we can't stop them completely." A warning flashed on the screen. "Power. Surge detected near Medbay 3. That's close to your department," Elias said. "Should we check it out?" Laura's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but we must be careful." The hall to Medbay 3 was dark and littered with debris. As they entered, Elias saw overturned stretchers and cracked medical equipment. The hum of broken machines filled the air. "Stay close," Laura whispered. "There could be traps." They moved slowly until voices echoed ahead. Peeking around a corner, they saw a group of pirates trying to force open a locked storage room. Inside, the stolen medical supplies were stacked neatly, guarded by two frightened technicians. Elias clenched his fists. "We can't let them take those." Laura scanned the area. "I'll distract them. You take them down quietly." "Quietly, huh?" Elias smiled. "I'll do my best." Laura stepped out first, drawing the pirates' attention. Her voice was calm but firm. "Leave now, or we will stop you." The pirates turned, surprised to see her. One raised a weapon, but Elias slipped behind them and knocked the first pirate's arm. The fight was quick but messy. Elias and Laura worked together perfectly. She used her multiple arms to disarm and restrain, while he relied on speed and quick punches. Within moments, the pirates were on the floor, groaning but not unconscious. Laura turned to the technicians. "Are you hurt?" One shook his head, eyes wide with relief. "Thanks to you, no." Elias glanced around. "We should get out before more arrive." They helped the technicians up and moved toward the corridor. Back in the control room, the lockdown was almost complete. Doors sealed, power stabilized, and emergency crews on the way. Laura looked tired but satisfied. "We did well," Elias smiled. "You're amazing. I didn't expect a nurse to be this good in a fight." She shrugged. "I'm more than a nurse." There was a pause. Then Elias said softly, "I'm glad you're on my side." Her eyes met his. The faint lavender glow returned, and this time, she didn't hide it. "Thank you," she said quietly. The calm was short-lived. Suddenly, the control room shook violently. An explosion rocked the station, and the lights flickered. Elias grabbed the console for support. "What was that?" Laura's hands flew over the controls. "The pirates set charges near the main power core. We need to stop them before the whole station loses power." They exchanged a quick look. Time was running out. Without hesitation, they prepared to leave. Laura grabbed a medical kit, and Elias took a security baton from the console. As they stepped into the corridor, Elias said, "Ready for round 2? Laura smirked slightly. "Always." The corridors near the power core were dim and tense. The faint glow of damaged panels cast long shadows along the metal walls. The air smelled faintly of smoke and hot circuits. Elias and Laura moved cautiously, every step alert to danger. "We are close," Laura said softly. "The pirates will try to destroy the core to disable the station." Elias clenched his fists. "We can't let that happen. Too many lives depend on this place." Ahead, a faint red light flashed rapidly, a warning signal. Laura tapped her wrist communicator. "Security teams are still fighting the pirates elsewhere. We are on our own here." Elias nodded. "Let's finish this." They turned a corner and saw the power core chamber. The room was large, filled with tall energy conduits glowing blue and pulsing softly. But at the center, a group of pirates had already planted explosives around the core. The pirate leader from before stood among them, barking orders. He wore a cruel smile, clearly confident. Laura's skin shifted to a pale lavender, the color of deep focus and determination. Elias whispered, "We have to stop them now!" Laura moved first, sprinting forward with surprising speed despite her slender frame. Her four arms moved like a blur, two disarming a pirate holding a plasma rifle, while the other two worked to cut the wires of an explosive. Elias followed, dodging laser fire and grabbing a fallen metal pipe. He swung at a pirate charging toward him, knocking the attacker off balance. "Lura, I'm with you!" he shouted. Together they worked as one. Lura's precise movements disabled the bombs one by one. Elias covered her, taking down pirates with swift strikes. The pirate leader roared and charged, swinging a heavy energy club. Elias barely dodged, feeling the rush of air as the weapon passed close. Lura lunged at the leader, grabbing his arm with two hands and twisting. The leader grunted but fought back, trying to break free. Elias joined, striking the leader's legs and forcing him to the ground. Lura pressed down with her arms, pinning him. "Enough," she said firmly. "You will not destroy this station." The pirate leader glared but gave no answer. Suddenly, one of the explosives beeped faster. Its timer was running out. "We must hurry," Elias said, looking to Lura. She nodded and continued cutting wires. Sweat glistened on her forehead, but her hands didn't tremble. With a final snip, the timer stopped. The last bomb was disarmed. Elias breathed out slowly, relief flooding him. That was too close. Lura relaxed slightly but remained alert. "We should get back to the control room." As they left the chamber, alarms blared throughout the station. The fight was not over, but the worst threat was stopped. Elias glanced at Lura. "You saved the station, and me." Her skin softened to a gentle blue. "You helped, too. Without you, this would have been impossible." They moved quickly through the halls, passing injured patients and busy medics. In a quiet moment, Elias said, "I never expected to find someone like you here. Strong, brave, and kind." Lura looked at him, eyes glowing softly. "You see me, not just the uniform." He smiled. "Always." Days later, Elias was ready to leave Orion Station. His injuries had healed and the station was returning to normal. Lura walked with him, on the observation deck, where stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. "You will fly again," she said quietly. Elias nodded. "I hoped so, but I'm glad I stayed here a little longer." She smiled, a rare and beautiful sight. "And I am glad you spoke to me that day." He laughed softly. "I meant what I said. You're beautiful, even in that uniform." Lura blushed, her skin glowing a soft lavender. "Maybe. You're not so bad yourself," she said, her voice warm. They stood together, watching the stars, knowing this was only the beginning of their story. The stars outside Orion Station twinkled quietly as Captain Elias Ward stood beside Lura on the observation deck. The cool glass separated them from the vastness of space, but in that moment, the whole universe felt close. Elias looked at her, the alien nurse who had become so much more than a stranger in a hospital. Her pale blue skin glowed softly in the gentle light, and the familiar shimmer of lavender appeared when she smiled. "It's strange," Elias said, breaking the silence. "I came here expecting to recover. Instead, I found something I didn't expect." Lura tilted her head, her four arms folded neatly in front of her. "What did you find?" "Someone who sees me, not just a broken pilot, but a person." He smiled. "Someone who is brave, strong, and beautiful, even in that uniform." She blushed again, her skin shifting to the soft lavender that had become their quiet signal of closeness. "You say that like it's unusual." "Maybe it is," Elias admitted. "But that's because you're not like anyone I've ever met." Weeks had passed since the pirate attack. The station was calm now, bustling with activity as repairs and recovery continued. The injured were healing, and the crew prepared for the next mission. Elias had been offered a new command, a chance to return to flying and fighting for peace. Yet he hesitated. "I don't want to leave," he confessed one evening as they watched the stars together. "Not yet." Laura looked at him, her dark eyes steady. Why? Because here, with you, I feel alive. More than I ever did flying through battle. She reached out, one of her arms brushing lightly against his. You are not alone anymore. The moment stretched between them, soft and full of promise. One day, as they walked through the station's garden dome, Elias stopped and turned to Laura. I want to ask you something, he said, his voice careful. Laura smiled. You don't have to be nervous. He took a deep breath. Will you come with me? Off the station, to new worlds, new adventures? Her skin glowed warmly, the lavender deepening. I thought you would never ask. Their journey was just beginning. Elias and Laura stood side by side as the shuttle prepared to launch. Orion Station shrank behind them, but the future stretched wide ahead. No matter where we go, Elias said, I want you by my side. And I, yours, Laura replied. They smiled, hands intertwined. Human and Virith, united by courage, trust, and something deeper than words.